Okay, so Morgellons disease, not understood, but there are some relations to certain things, and that's how I do my research. I say, what relates to this condition? What is it that is woven into this particular scenario where apparently it looks like it might have something to do with Lyme disease and ticks, and then causing fibers to grow in the upper layers of your skin. And they call it, well, here's what it says. Morgellons disease, rare disorder characterized by the presence of fibers underneath, embedded in, and erupting from unbroken skin or slow healing sores. This is critical to understand. It's up in your skin area. And these fibers come out, and there's different colors to them. That's also very important. So let's look a little deeper. Now, they did look into it, apparently. They did 3.2 million participants, and they said there was a 3.65% case, or 3.65 cases for every 100,000, so that's like add another couple zeros behind that. Now, the same CDC study showed that this Morgellons disease is most often seen in white middle-aged women. Why? That's a good question. Another study showed that people are at a higher risk for this disease if they have had Lyme disease or have it. They were exposed to a tick. All right, this is the key. The tick. The blood tests indicate were bitten by a tick. Or they have hypothyroidism. Well, let's just look into hypothyroidism first. All right, this is really important to understand about this particular gland, the hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism occurs when your body doesn't produce enough thyroid hormones. Well, hormones are enzymes. Hormones is not a well understood word. We'll go into that in a minute too. The thyroid, small butterfly-shaped gland in the front of your neck. So what does that do? It senses everything that goes down your throat. It's in the front of your neck. It releases hormones to help your body regulate and use energy because it knows what just passed by. It knows what to release. The thyroid is responsible for providing energy to nearly every organ in your body. So if it's not providing the correct enzymes based on what went by, certain organs are not going to get their share. It controls functions such as how your heart beats, how your digestive system works. That's the key right there. If you're not digesting correctly, it means your thyroid didn't say, hey, I got some sugar coming down, I got some acids, I got some salts. You're not going to digest it correctly. Without the right amount of thyroid enzymes, forget hormones, enzymes, your body's natural function begins to slow down. And what are thyroid enzymes? Well, let's look into hormones versus enzymes. Okay, my wonderful, wonderful friends, Roger Spur, and I am going to talk about me. And what am I talking about? I do research, and that's just what I do. I'm compulsive. I can't help myself. I see something, and I cannot walk away from it. It's just the way I am. And consequently, I put a few papers up on academia, which really was a waste of time because only a few people see it. But, I get 3,005 mentions in different things, and they are talking about fossil fuels, and I do everything. So I just want you to know that I'm not just spouting off here. I really do the research. So that's all I can say, because I'm going to be talking about some medical things in Lyme disease and so forth, Morgellons, which is not understood. And I'm not saying I have any cure for anything. I'm just saying here's what my research indicates. And that's what I do is research. I mean, I got over 3,000 people writing about me in papers. I don't know what they're saying. But, I'm presenting pretty credible evidence every time I speak. So if you have a disagreement, I'd like to know what the disagreement is. I rarely get that. All I ever say, oh, you can't be right, that's just crazy because so-and-so Bohr or Einstein or somebody said this or that. Well, no, that doesn't mean it's right. look at my evidence, and then we discuss it. And that's what I do, and they understand it, but only a few here and there. So the evidence never gets to anybody consequential, and consequently, nothing ever happens. But what I'm going to talk about is Morgellons disease, and what I not discovered really, just what I uncovered, let me put it that way, because a lot of this stuff is just there, it's just there. They know the research, but just nobody pays any attention to it. So that's the problem, really. All right, here's exactly what I said. Enzymes are biological catalysts. They break things down so elegantly, it's unbelievable. They catalyze biological reactions. They break down food, they create different products to fight off bacteria and so forth. Now, hormones are not catalysts. Hormones simply initiate biochemical reactions. They're the alerters. They're the ones that go down and say, hey, we got some sugar coming, we got some this coming, we got some of that coming. And then they are the initiators of biochemical reactions, and then the enzymes create the catalyst. Well, where do the enzymes come from? They come from bacteria. If you don't have the bacteria living in the little fluid-filled bags in the membranes and the interstitium of your body, you are not going to be healthy. You need the bacteria, and you need the right bacteria in the right places, and then you need your thyroid to say, hey, we got this stuff coming down, and you're going to have to deal with it. All right, so what did we just talk about? Lyme disease, ticks, hyperthyroidism. Hyperthyroidism alerts bacteria to make certain catalysts to break down certain things in your body to make products to keep you alive, basically. If your thyroid is not saying, hey, make this certain product, then it's not going to be made. If the bacteria is not there in the digestive system or in the wherever it is, you're riddled with bacteria, and that bacteria is good for you. And this thyroid says, hey, we need to produce some whatever the chemistry is, and if it's not done, you're going to be sick. So if the thyroid doesn't tell you something, because it doesn't have the right action going on there, well, you're not going to know what to do. If it sends a signal down, I think most of the time the thyroid is doing its job, but the bacteria is not there to respond. So that's the key. If your bacteria is dead, you're not going to be able to respond. And how can I make sort of that jump? Well, because we're talking about Lyme and ticks. And I had a very good, well, he's a good friend now, that alerted me to this. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. All right, what are you looking at here? You're looking at areolar tissue, interstitium. It goes by both names now. Those balls attached to these fibers, and those fibers pull, and you stretch, and you roll around, and your skin does this and that, and they all come back to these balls. That's how you come back to where you should be before you got all stretched out and moved around. And inside these little bags of fluid, you can't see it here, but I'll show you a better shot, is where these bacteria live. And this is the key, is the bacteria being killed. All right, now these are these layers of interstitium and areolar tissue. And you see how many layers there is there? They don't realize this. They think those are just, I don't know what they think. But I'm going to tell you right now, in this little section right here, which is microscopic, there could be 1,000 or more layers of tissue. And between every single layer, there is membrane-bound bacteria living in there. Something tries to penetrate this way or that way through that membrane. It says, no, if I let you through, I'll let you through. But if I won't let you through, you can't come through. And the only way I can stop you is if I have the correct bacteria living in these bags of fluid to prevent you from attacking me. I'll make mucus to slime this, or I will send out a guy to kill you. That's all. And if you have the right bacteria in here, and you have your thyroids working right, and your, even your, all your organs are necessary. Your appendix is necessary. That's your extra bags of bacteria so that it can send it back out in case you do get invaded. Because that's where your appendix, all of that, that's why sometimes they blow up. There's a lot of bacteria living in there. That's where it's supposed to be stored. That's your backup troops. Your thyroid and your the things in your throat there, oh man, I got it, tonsils. I had mine out, and you know, I don't know if mine got infected. Now, but I was taking some kind of antibiotics, I think, at the time, and it ended up in getting my tonsils getting infected. What you got to do is go back and relate everything to the antibiotics, and also MMR vaccine causes some kind of gut distress. Stephanie Seneff from MIT, Dr. Stephanie Seneff. I corresponded with her a little bit and explained to her about what we were doing with these probiotics, because we have actually had a very good response on kids with autism. From being just totally autistic to being able to speak and communicate and do things and ride bicycles and shoot archery and interact in a semi-normal way. I mean, they're never ever going to be 100% maybe, but maybe some of them will be. I don't know. But I can tell you what, I know for a fact, for working with someone for at least a couple of years now, a little more than that, every time her son is off the probiotics, boom, he starts going back into the autistic condition. Now, is there some way we could infuse the body to be able to make these, which are normal? For most people, you have the ability to do that. When the vaccine or the antibiotics kills the ability to do that, maybe you just can't repopulate. You can't get them back into the membranes where they belong. Maybe we would have to inject some little, probiotics into membranes to make them stay there. Just people have fecal transplants, and then they're perfectly healthy after that. And my friend Roger Dunnigan, I'll use his last name, Roger, thank you, my buddy. You probably saved a lot of lives. And you definitely improved a lot of people's lives with the probiotics. Telling me about that, because this was like 6 or 7 years ago. He came up here with a film guy, and they were going to do a video on a documentary on my research. And in the midst of all this stuff going on back and forth, he related to me about how he had extremely bad Lyme disease, and they told him to go home and die. They gave him so many antibiotics, there was nothing left in his body, and he got cytokine storms and all these things, and boop, they said, there's nothing we can do, I'm sorry. And he went home and took probiotics, and he said in a week he was fine. And I have found this over and over and over and over again, and it's related to this interstitium, which is this areolar tissue, and all of these layers. You never see these, and doctors don't even know how much layering we have and how much membrane bound bacteria is there, and they don't know what types live where, and they don't even recommend probiotics, most of them. I had surgery twice because I had a root canal and took antibiotics. Nobody said a word to me about it. Next thing I know, I had lesions in my intestines, and I had to go twice for surgery. And then the doctor says, oh, you should be taking probiotics. So take that and Metamucil, you'll be fine. And yeah, he was right. Unbelievable. Okay, now what I showed you was actual biology. This is obviously representation. Now, mucosa, what does that mean? Mucus. Mucus is slime. What does slime do? It says, stay away from me. Don't come in here. I'm sliming my surface to keep you away. Well, why would it slime itself? It senses the presence of an invader. And how does it do that? Maybe your thyroid sends a signal down there. I don't know. But I do know that if you don't produce this mucus, it'll burn through this layer. And then once it gets in here, it's inside you. And now you're in trouble. Because you're in trouble if you can't create something back here to fight it off. And you have layer after layer. Like I said, there's thousands of these layers. They look at like a big thing. No. Layer, thousands. And in between every one of them, yes, there is all that stuff. There's the balls, there's the bags, there's the the little springs that keep them open after, you move, and they bring you back to an exact, supposedly, when everything works good. As you get older, collagens break down. You only make collagen until you're 25 or 30. At that point, collagen's over. You are structurally built. That's why as you get older and older and older, your skin sags and gets floppy and all that, because you're just not making any more of this. I don't know if it's feasible to, that's a whole other issue. Can we replace this? I don't know. They say yes, some people. As a matter of fact, this is supposed to be for collagen matrix to replace it. I don't know if it works or not. I'm not going to say yes or no to any of that stuff. I try this and that. I look into it. That's what I do. I do research. And when I have to do research, I do it on myself as much as I do it on anybody else, if I can. And I'm at the age where my skin is, not in good condition as it should be. And, if you've attacked the collagens, and right now, this COVID, that's exactly what it's doing. It's breaking these springs right here, these springs. They're breaking, the bags collapse, and you can't open up your lungs anymore. All of this stuff is supposed to be springy and open up 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 24/7. They snap and break and can't breathe. And then what happens is these little spring bits and pieces will go through your system and have something that's called COVID toe now. And I believe what's happening, that's because that's the end point of your arterial flush. And then at the bottom there, it's supposed to come back in your veins and so forth. Well, it comes back in your veins all over the place, but a lot of it is the bottom of your foot. And I believe if they looked into like an autopsy or they did some exam of the toes of these people, they would see it's like a filter, stuff collecting in the filter of the blood vessels that go from the artery and move their way over to the vein, and it's getting clogged up in there and getting all red and infected and all that stuff. That's COVID toe. Well, let's see if I can find it. But anyway, don't forget, this is thousands of layers. We're breaking the collagen. And that's because of some bacterial infection. Well, yeah, more or less. They call it a virus. But what it does, when a virus attacks you, it takes over your functioning system that makes products for your own body. Well, it takes it over and it says, hey, why don't you go and make some of this stuff? And it says, yeah, no problem. You got the keys, I'll do the job. It says, here's the keys and here's the code. And it's okay, and it starts making it. Now, that's taken over your system. That's a virus. And then those go and attack all these collagens and break it down. Now, how could that thing get in to take over your system? It breaks through the mucus, or it doesn't have any protectors here to attack it with serosa. So what is the takeaway from this? If you're compromised, immunocompromised, it means you don't have good bacteria. It's as simple as that. I mean, it really is. It means you don't have a good bacterial population in your body to create the catalysts, which are the enzymes, or to create the serosa products, which are the destroyers, the killers, the bombs. So either they would just walk right through, and this is why you get stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 cancer, because it starts here, and then somebody tries to stop it, try to stop. You can't. I don't have enough. They're too much. Boom, stage 4, you're done. Now, the one that Roger told me to take was, what he took was primal defense. Now, they make 2 different types. They make the probiotic formula Ultima, and the just a normal one. I got to be honest with you, I like this one better than this. I got them both, but anyway, and they work. Everybody's told me, thank you. Now, I don't care. You do what you want. I'm not saying take it, and I'm not going to say it's going to help you. But if you don't have the right bacterial colonies in your body, you're going to be sick. That I can tell you for 100% fact. From my research, no question whatsoever. And if you start looking into everything there is, if you have any disease whatsoever, look that up and say, and digestive disorders. And they'll relate it. And they'll say, if you have lupus, you're going to have this kind of a digestive disorder. If you're going to have eczema, you're going to have this type of a digestive order. No, this type of a digestive order leads to that. That's my opinion. And that's, my way of thinking is probiotics. If you're not taking them, then, which is up to you, but you might be missing out on some benefits, because I have found no bad things about them. There's nothing bad that I can find, unless you could present something. We're trying to uncover things. We're trying to understand things without dismissing them out of hand and say, oh, no, you got to listen to this. No, listen to that. You listen to anybody you want. You do anything you want. But if you don't hear from this guy and that guy and this guy, and all you hear from is right straight down the middle, the guy that made up the rules 100 years ago, then you're stuck to that guy. And that is the system right now. Right now, if you talk out of order, like I do, you get shut down. And let me just show you something. You see this? I'm basically blocked on Facebook for anything. Every time I post something, it comes up that I'm violating their rules because I'm showing giants in the earth is history denied. Well, why is that wrong? Everybody's showing all kind of crazy things. My stuff is DNA certified, CAT scanned, anatomist verified, chemistry, all that. But I have so much evidence that academia has forced Facebook to destroy my research. All right, I know I showed you this before, but this is the areolar tissue. These are the little fibers, and they're elastic fibers. They're supposed to be anchored to a ball, each one of them, and then they pull your skin back. Apparently, they're breaking from the balls. Now, there's an attachment spot, and we may be able to focus in on that. But you see, this is normal-looking areolar tissue. It's supposed to be exactly what it's supposed to be, just like this. Now, Morgellons is a whole different story. We've lost the attachments, and the fibers are on their own. They're just growing out of your skin and festering and pushing and scrubbing against the surface and making it feel like you're being invaded by bugs, and they're not attached to the balls. And I think there may be a way we can deal with this. Now, I also mentioned my buddy, he almost lost the ability to walk, and that's the same attachments to the balls that are in your bones. Now, there's different bacteria living in here because there's a different environment than your skin or your eyeballs or your lips or your intestines. They're all different bacteria. We need a map to map out the entire body, what bacteria lives where. Okay, now this, I believe, is the situation. Right here is an attachment. That's a different chemistry than this and that. And I believe what's happened is the balls are becoming detached and the fibers are just growing willy-nilly where they're supposed to be anchored to the skin somewhere and anchored to the ball so that the skin can do this and this and this and this, and it'll always come back to right here. Now, they're breaking. That, to me, it's quite obvious. And, well, it's not quite obvious. It's got to be looked at. Let's just go with that. Now, I am literally a nobody in any realm. Very few people pay attention to what I say. However, I worked with some of the top guys in the world on fascia, because this is nothing more than fascia. Fascia is the rubbery, elastic tissue that wraps around everything, every tendon, every muscle fiber, everywhere in your entire body. Now they're calling it went from fascia to, well, it's interstitium now. Areolar tissue, fascia, interstitium, all basically the same sort of stuff. This is what breaks. Now, I have a meeting online with the director of fascia research. He's over in Europe at an institute over there. Now, they relate a lot of this to sports injuries because these are the kind of sports injuries you get. Now, I don't know if he will have any capability of lab contacts. You know, I have other people that have labs, but they don't do this stuff. And I don't know anybody that does. So we need an anatomist. Now, I work with Gil Headley, who would be the guy I would want to do the anatomy on this. And then we need somebody to do the biopsy work, whatever you want to call it, the chemistry. What is it that's missing here? Where is a healthy person's bacterial community? What is it? What's living there? And what is somebody that has some kind of condition, that Morgellons or whatever it is, osteoarthritis or rheumatoid arthritis. It's all basically the same sort of stuff. Now, because there's going to be an envelope around all of this too. Is it invading here, or it needs to be looked at in a new light, because there's so many layers of membranes and tissues that surround everything that they really haven't really looked at well. Even fascia, they just decided it's called a new organ system. It's so important to the body's maintenance. In 2018, they said this is so important, it's a new organ system. And this is what I discovered with Gil Headley. Gil worked with me because I could see it in the creatures that I was working with, my mud fossils, that petrified into exact copies of what they were when they were living. When the anatomists would get in these stuff, they were flat. All of that stuff, all of those interstitium layers with all those fluid bags, flat as a pancake. Thousands of layers, and they would just say, oh, that's just a sheet. Well, it wasn't a sheet. It's that interstitium. But I discovered it because mine showed it. And then Gil said, yeah, that's what we used to call fuzz, and fuzz is what they used to call it. But it's interstitium when it's fluffed up. Anyway, that's the story on that. And I think this is worth investigating. And if you got Morgellons, you should talk to somebody. If I can get somebody to speak up for me, I can get somewhere. But right now, I am literally shut off from the rest of the world. I mean, I'm serious. I have a lot of extremely good content on my YouTube and in Facebook, and it's all been suppressed and denied. And all the universities, Yale, Harvard, Johns Hopkins, University of Texas, Arizona, and you name one of them, not a one of them that's making statements will respond to a single word I say. So I don't see how they can call themselves scientists. Certainly not doctors, not fiduciaries, and not competent as far as I'm concerned. If I can present the kind of things I present and have it dismissed, CAT scans, DNA, specimens, anatomists, all that stuff, is because I say, I don't know if I've talked to you about the mud fossils, but everything is capable of turning into stone. And I found all this stuff too. That's a stone goose head. That's the fatter pattern of the feathers. That's his eyeball. That's his little beak. I think it's a goose. And if you look at it correctly, you can see that's where his neck was. You got to get it in the right light, and you can see. But you're not seeing this like bones or anything, because they don't have bones. This is nucleophilic substitution. That's a whole other issue. And that, again, is really, really annoyed me, because I spent money for DNA work on 3 specimens, all came back human. I had somebody donated 7 CAT scans, all came back to exactly what the anatomist said. Yep, that's all identical to what we would consider human anatomy. So I did the chemistry, I did everything else. If somebody can't help me, I really just going to have to shut down. I don't know what else to do. At this point, I'm very, very frustrated, and, I think it's taking a toll on me. I've been trying to be nice about it. I tried for 10 years, and it's taken I can't say it. I'm thinking it might be taking a toll. It's taking a hell of a toll on everybody, me and my life, and everybody around me. So, I point to academics, and I point to the top universities in the world as the leaders of peer review that says we will not talk to you unless we want to talk to you. And all of us have to agree we want to talk to you. And if any one of us says we don't want to talk to you, that guy we're going to throw out. It's bullying, it's a conspiracy, it's fiduciary failure, and the students are the losers. And you, as your medical systems don't work. They don't want to see anything that doesn't relate to what the science says. Well, the science is, in my opinion now, no longer science. Okay, by the way, I talked about COVID toe. This is COVID toe. Now, if anybody's on probiotics, taking good quality probiotics, not just so I eat yogurt or whatever, no. I need to know somebody's taking some kind of probiotics that have you got to have a whole batch of different strains because they all do different things. Some of them do the mucus, some of them do the cirrhosis, all that. Now, my opinion here is because your artery comes down and then it comes back up through your veins, back to your heart. At the very bottom, I think as the filter goes across from the artery side to the vein side, it's plugging up because that's where you would end up having all your little particles end up down here, just like if it was a filter in a water supply. Now, and then it creates a backup and creates infection and, well, not necessarily infection, but inflammation. Now, if somebody is taking probiotics and they have this, I would love to know that. And if somebody isn't taking probiotics and they have this and they start taking them, I'd like to know if it had any effect. These are the kind of things I do. This is what I do. All right, here's almost the same as the Morgellons fibers. Purple, pink, red, or blue lesions on the toes resemble perniochimbalinus or frostbite-like rash were reported in individuals with COVID-19, mostly among children and young adults. These are the areas where all that blood flows down to there and then it has to come back up. Well, when it has to come back up, it has to go through these little tiny blood vessels and they are getting plugged up. That's what I'm taking from this. And basically, COVID is interstitium related. It's this flexible fabric that has to move like this all day long. Your lungs, your heart, your blood vessels, poof, 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 poof. They have to do that all day long. And if you don't have that rubbery substance in there, it breaks down. When it breaks down, your lungs collapse. You can't breathe. And when they collapse, those little fibers that I showed you, those little collagen fibers, break. And they can get into the fluid of your system and plug up the return. That's what I'm taking from this. And if, this is where research has to be done. You can't be dismissed out of hand. And that's basically what's going on right now. They're saying, we really don't know much about it, so we're just not going to do anything about it. That's what I'm seeing. I don't see any big research going on Morgellons, unless you can point to some. This is about as far as you can get into Morgellons. Upon further investigation, researchers conclude the fibers contain human skin cells, which is the interstitium cells. They found the fibers originated from hair follicles, not fabric, and they're not from hair follicles. They're from the interstitium fibers. In a more recent 2018 study involving 1,000 people, 6% of the individuals had Morgellons and tested positive for B. All right? All right, now it's up to you. I've done the research. I've done the best I can do. I don't have Lyme disease, so it's up to you to try to get a hold of these people. This is an international collaboration, an international team co-authored this important new paper. Research included all these different people. These are the people you got to contact. And you say, look at this research that Roger did and see if it's right. See if you got anything you can take away from this. If you're never going to get any relief from this unless you understand it as being just what they say here. Unusual filaments, Morgellons disease, were shown to originate in deep skin cell layers in response to infection with this Lyme spirochete. Now, you could kill the spirochetes, yes, but you have to put the bacteria back in there or you get worse off. All right, so you don't have to talk to them, and then we have to figure out a way where you may have to inject some of this bacteria in there. If we knew what bacteria it was, we have no idea about any of this stuff yet. We don't know what bacteria lives where in the body. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but I think I did. I have a meeting or online with somebody that may be able to help. But somebody's got to stand up and help. Because right now, they don't understand it, and you will never get any relief, and I just can't imagine living with this. Because when the pictures are horrifying some people.